It was supposed to be a perfect weekend getaway, a chance to escape the stresses of everyday life, reconnect with nature, and, most importantly, solidify the friendship between four longtime companions. The plan was simple. Drive up to the secluded cabin, enjoy some drinks by the fire, and tell stories under the stars. But from the moment they arrived, things started to feel off. The group consisted of Sarah, the pragmatic and skeptical one, Jason, the thrill-seeker with a dark sense of humor, Lily, the quiet but observant friend who was always just a little too perceptive for comfort, and Evan, the outgoing, life-of-the-party guy who always tried to keep things light, even when they weren't. Despite their differences, they had been inseparable since their college days, always coming back together to spend time away from the chaos of their lives. But this trip, this seemingly innocent camping trip, would unravel secrets none of them were ready for. They arrived at the cabin late in the afternoon, the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. The air was fresh, crisp, but there was an odd silence in the woods, like the forest itself was holding its breath. The rustle of the leaves, the chirping of birds. It all felt too distant, too removed from the usual noise of nature. Lily noticed it first, but she kept it to herself. Jason immediately grabbed a cooler and popped open a beer. "Who's ready to get this party started?" he grinned, tossing drinks to everyone. "We'll make this weekend legendary." Sarah, always the cautious one, eyed the surrounding forest with suspicion. "It's kind of weird, don't you think? This cabin, it's so far from anywhere. Who even built this place?" Jason scoffed. "It's just a cabin in the woods, Sarah. Relax." He handed her a drink. "You worry too much. Just enjoy the quiet." Lily, who had been unusually quiet, nodded but didn't respond. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She glanced at Evan, who was already unpacking his gear. He was busy joking and laughing, oblivious to the unease creeping into the air. As they settled in for the night, they lit a fire and began to catch up. Conversations flowed easily at first. College memories, old friends, and inevitably stories about their romantic entanglements. But as the flames danced and crackled, a strange tension started to build. There was something about this weekend that felt off, something none of them could put their finger on. Around midnight, the conversation shifted. Sarah, perhaps influenced by the growing unease, brought up a topic none of them had expected. "Do you guys ever wonder why we all stay friends? I mean, there are times we get so angry with each other, and then the next day it's like nothing ever happened. It's like we all ignore the bad stuff that's happened over the years." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Are you serious? We've known each other forever, Sarah. Of course we have our ups and downs. But that's what friends do, right?" Sarah looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe we all just ignore things that we don't want to deal with. You know, like what happened the summer after graduation?" Jason froze, his expression briefly faltering before he quickly recovered. "What are you talking about?" Lily shifted in her seat, glancing between Sarah and Jason, sensing where this was headed. "Sarah, don't..." But Sarah continued, her voice growing more intense. "I mean, we never really talked about what happened that weekend, did we? The weekend Jason..." Jason slammed his bottle down, his face flushing. "Enough, Sarah!" he snapped, his voice rising. "This is exactly why we shouldn't talk about the past. It's done. It's over." But Sarah wasn't done. Is it really over, though? Is it really? Because it feels like we're all pretending it didn't happen, pretending that things didn't get messy. Lily stood up abruptly, her eyes wide. "We shouldn't do this right now. Not here. Not now." Evan, sensing the tension rising, quickly stood and tried to change the subject. "Hey, let's just enjoy the fire, all right? We don't need to get into this right now. We're here to have fun." But it was already too late. Sarah's words had planted a seed, and now the uncomfortable truth hung heavy in the air. Jason was visibly shaken, and Lily was uncomfortable, unable to ignore the elephant in the room any longer. Everyone knew what Sarah was referring to. The incident from years ago. The one they had all buried deep in the past. The one they pretended never happened. The one they couldn't forget, no matter how hard they tried. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowing as she observed the reactions of her friends. "So we're not going to talk about it then? Fine, but let's be honest here. Whatever happened back then, it's still affecting us. Every one of us." Evan looked at the others nervously, clearly wanting to change the subject again, but the tension was too thick. Jason stood up suddenly, pushing his chair back with force. "I'm going to bed," he muttered, his voice low and tight. "We'll talk about this some other time." But no one spoke. The silence hung in the air as Jason disappeared into the cabin. Lily watched him go before turning to Sarah. "That was a little too much, don't you think?" Sarah shrugged, her expression unreadable. "I'm just saying the truth. We've been avoiding it for years. Maybe it's time we finally deal with it." As the fire crackled and popped, the tension between the group grew thicker, and for the first time that evening, all four of them felt the weight of the secrets they had carried with them for so long. But little did they know, the secrets they kept buried weren't the only thing threatening to destroy their friendship. What started as a weekend getaway, a simple camping trip, was about to spiral into something far darker. Unbeknownst to them, someone had been watching. The next morning, the atmosphere in the cabin felt heavier than the day before. The once picturesque view of the surrounding woods now seemed distant and foreboding, as if the trees themselves were silently watching, waiting. Sarah had barely slept, her mind racing with the argument from the previous night. The words she had said, truthful yet venomous, had lingered in the back of her mind like a storm cloud that refused to dissipate. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had stirred something up, something they couldn't put back in the box. The sound of footsteps broke her thoughts, and she looked up to see Lily entering the small living room, her eyes tired but still sharp. She was the first one up, which wasn't unusual, but there was something off about the way she moved. Her gaze darted around the room as though searching for something, someone. "You're up early," Sarah said, trying to sound casual, but there was an edge to her voice. Lily hesitated, then sank into one of the armchairs by the fire. She rubbed her temples. "Couldn't sleep much." You really think we should have gone there last night? I mean, talking about that thing." Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious. "We need to talk about it. We can't keep pretending like everything's fine, like that weekend didn't change everything." Her voice softened, as if the weight of the words was sinking in. "None of us are the same because of it." Lily's lips pressed into a thin line, her gaze distant. "But maybe some things are better left in the past. We've all moved on, haven't we?" Sarah shook her head. "We've moved on, but not in a healthy way. We buried it, but we didn't heal from it." Before Lily could respond, Jason came down the stairs, his expression tense. His eyes flickered between Sarah and Lily, lingering just a moment too long on Sarah before he quickly turned his attention to the coffee pot. "Morning," Jason muttered, his voice rough. He clearly hadn't slept well either. The air around him seemed charged, as though he were ready to explode at any moment. "Morning," Lily responded, trying to keep the conversation light. "We were just talking about last night." Jason stiffened. "I don't want to talk about it." He poured himself a cup of coffee, avoiding Sarah's gaze. His actions were rushed, almost erratic, as though he was trying to distract himself from the conversation. "It's over. Whatever happened back then, it stays back then." But Sarah wasn't letting go. She stood, moving closer to Jason. "We can't keep running from the truth, Jason. It's eating at us, and if we don't talk about it, it's only going to get worse." Jason's hand tightened around his mug, his knuckles white. He opened his mouth to retort, but before he could say anything, there was a sudden knock on the door. The sound broke the tension like a whip cracking through the air. All three of them turned to the door, their eyes wide in surprise. No one was supposed to be out here. The cabin was far from any town, far from any neighbors. It was supposed to be a secluded getaway, a place to disconnect. Sarah shot a glance at Lily and Jason before cautiously walking toward the door. As she opened it, the figure standing on the other side took her by surprise. It was Evan. His face was pale, his usually carefree demeanor replaced by a look of quiet panic. His eyes darted past her, searching the interior of the cabin. "Evan?" Sarah asked, her voice faltering. "What's wrong?" Evan's breathing was shallow, and his voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "There's someone in the woods." Lily's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, someone in the woods?" Evan swallowed hard. "I saw someone. They were watching the cabin, just standing there looking at us. They don't look like they belong out here. They're wearing something weird, like they don't belong. I don't know who they are, but I'm telling you, it didn't feel right." Jason stood up abruptly, his eyes flashing with anger. "This is ridiculous, Evan. You're freaking out over nothing." "No," Evan insisted, his voice stronger now, though still shaky. "I swear to God, I saw someone out there. They were just standing, staring. It's not like a normal person out for a hike or something. It was off. Something's wrong." The group fell into a tense silence. They had all been uneasy since the night before, but now this new layer of fear made everything feel even worse. The cabin, once a peaceful retreat, now felt like a trap, a place they couldn't escape. "Should we call the police?" Lily asked, her voice quiet but laced with concern. Jason scoffed. "The police? For what? A random stranger in the woods? It's probably nothing." But Sarah was already moving, her mind racing. "Maybe we should check it out. We need to be sure." Her eyes locked on Evan. "Are you sure? You saw them clearly?" Evan nodded. "I didn't imagine it." The group was at a crossroads. On the one hand, they were all aware of how isolated they were. A quick trip to the nearest town would take hours, even if they could make it. On the other hand, the thought of someone lurking nearby, someone watching them, made their skin crawl. They decided to venture into the woods together, armed with whatever they could find. Jason grabbed a couple of flashlights, while Lily nervously picked up a small pocket knife she found in the kitchen. Sarah was quieter than usual, but she kept a sharp eye on their surroundings. Evan led the way, moving cautiously as if every crack in the trees or rustle in the bushes could be a signal that the stranger was still watching. The woods felt oppressive. Every shadow seemed to stretch too long, and every sound seemed amplified in the unnatural silence. They walked for what seemed like hours, the darkening forest swallowing the last remnants of daylight. Just as they were about to turn back, Evan stopped suddenly, pointing ahead. "There," he whispered. "I saw them right there." The others froze. In the distance, beyond the trees, a figure stood motionless, silhouetted against the darkening sky. But as they moved closer, the figure turned and disappeared into the woods, vanishing in a split second, as though they were never there. "Did you see that?" Sarah gasped. They just disappeared." Jason's voice was low, tense. "This is insane. We're being paranoid. That was just a trick of the light." But Sarah wasn't so sure. As the figure disappeared, a chill ran down her spine. Whatever was happening, whatever they were walking into, was more dangerous than they realized. And someone somewhere was hiding the truth. The group returned to the cabin just after dusk, shaken and silent. The mysterious figure in the woods had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only fear and questions. No one spoke much as they re-entered the cabin, just the quiet rustle of coats being hung and doors being locked, again and again, as if the extra clicks might keep the unknown threat at bay. Sarah moved to the fireplace and stirred the dying embers, her face illuminated by the orange glow. Her voice was low and tense. "Sarah says they need to talk. Not about the stranger, but about what had happened all those years ago. The thing they all tried to forget." Jason immediately reacts, his tone defensive and cold. He says she's insane for bringing that up now, when they should be focused on who's stalking them in the woods. Evan interjects, his voice surprisingly steady. He says maybe the two things are connected. Maybe someone out there knows what they did. Lily stiffens by the kitchen counter, setting down a mug she hadn't sipped from. She looks pale. Her voice is small as she says, "We never buried him. Not really." The room falls into stunned silence. Jason turns sharply to her, demanding what she means. He reminds her that they had no choice, that it was an accident. But Lily shakes her head, tears starting to spill. She says it wasn't an accident. She's known that for years. Sarah walks toward her slowly, voice quiet and careful. She asks Lily to explain. Lily confesses that she saw Jason push the guy, Tommy, during the hike. The fight wasn't over a stupid prank like Jason claimed. It was about the photos. Tommy had found Jason's burner phone in the cabin, full of compromising pictures, including ones of Lily, taken without her knowing. Jason explodes in anger, demanding to know why Lily would accuse him of that now. But Evan cuts in, saying he remembers something too. He'd seen Jason and Tommy fighting that day, and Jason had threatened him afterward to keep quiet. Sarah takes a step back, realizing the weight of what they've uncovered. She says it makes sense now, why Jason didn't want to return to the site, why he was so panicked about coming back. Jason's hands are shaking. He denies everything. He says they're all just paranoid, scared, twisting memories to fit a story that doesn't exist. Then there's a loud crash outside. Everyone freezes. They rush to the window. In the distance, across the tree line, a small fire burns near the path they took earlier. And just at the edge of the light, someone is standing, watching. Again, Evan yells out that they need to leave. Now! Jason grabs a flashlight and moves toward the door. But Sarah stops him. She says they need to end this. Right here. They all walk together into the woods, toward the fire, hearts pounding. The figure doesn't move. As they get closer, they realize it's not a person at all, but a scarecrow-like effigy, dressed in a jacket that looks eerily like Tommy's from years ago. Its head is covered in cloth, but something inside the jacket gleams. Sarah reaches for it. It's a phone. One of their old phones, they realize. The one they thought they lost after that weekend. It still works. There's a new video on it. They all gather around as Sarah presses play. The video is grainy, shot from the woods, and shows 4 people, them, standing around a hole in the ground. A shallow grave. The sound plays. Jason yelling, Tommy's voice screaming something about going to the police, then a shove, then silence. It's damning, Evan whispers. Someone filmed us. Lily looks around, her voice trembling. Who? Then the camera on the phone turns around, and the final frame of the video shows the face of the person filming it. Tommy, alive, breathing, smiling. Sarah drops the phone. Jason stumbles backward in disbelief. Sarah says, That's impossible. He's dead. But Lily whispers, No, we never checked. We just assumed. Jason said... Jason shouts that this is a trick, a cruel trick, but then another voice cuts through the dark woods, a voice they all recognize. It says, You left me there, but I got out. They turn. Tommy is standing behind the fire now, alive, older, changed, but unmistakable. Half his face is scarred from the fall, his voice low and calm. He says he's been waiting, watching, and now it's their turn to feel what he felt. Alone, forgotten, buried. Jason charges at him, but Tommy pulls a flare gun and fires it straight into the air. The woods light up red, revealing figures around them. Silent, expressionless men in hunting gear. Friends of Tommy's. Witnesses, maybe more. Tommy says the cops are coming. He gave them the video. All of it. Jason tries to run, but one of the men tackles him. Evan and Sarah raise their hands instinctively. Lily drops to her knees. Tommy says he doesn't want revenge. He wants the truth to come out. As the red light flickers above the trees and sirens echo faintly in the distance, Sarah stares at the man they thought was gone forever. And she knows their lies didn't stay buried. They just waited to be found.